damn, okay, this is going to be some real
serious
stuff. This is serious. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to like really put the effort in. I remember calling my mom and be like, I don't know if it's going to work. Like, I was like 6 weeks in and I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
That position is that's a big title, right? You look at any like large established company or anything like that. It's that's a really big role, not getting paid or getting a lower wage, and sometimes you do, but you have that, it's what you trade off for that upside potential.
Hey guys, welcome back to It's Okay to Be Karen. Today you have me, Karen. We have yet another special guest at this podcast, and his name is Riley Stevenson. He is a computer engineering graduate and graduated in 2021. And today he is working at the Rivercity Innovations, and he's supporting a lot of IoT technologies to make operations more successful in our city and in our province. And before I say any further, I'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah, so my name is Riley Stevenson. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Rivercity Innovations. We design IoT technologies for businesses to help increase their operations, reduce food waste, and overall reduce their carbon footprint. I'm excited to be here today. So
Awesome.
thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm very excited to have you here too. Before we actually go into conversations, we're going to do a segment. And this is a rapid fire segment. So what happens in this segment is I'm going to ask you 5 questions. You ask me 5 questions. It has to be super quick. You can't think. Here we go. What is your favorite vacation destination?
Probably Mexico.
Okay. What is one thing that you still fear the most as an adult?
As an adult, probably flying away in a tornado.
I don't think that'll happen too often, but okay. If you were not a computer engineering graduate, what would you have been instead?
I think I either would have been a computer science graduate next or business.
Okay.
Probably would have been third, yeah.
Okay. You do look like a business major to me, so I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Do you like pineapples on pizza?
Absolutely.
You do? Okay.
Absolutely.
Favorite ice cream place in Saskatchewan? That's a tough one.
Fable, I would say.
Okay.
If I'm going ice cream.
Okay.
Okay. Drive or walk?
Walk.
Okay.
Yes.
Fall or summer?
Fall.
Fall. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because some people go to fall, winter,
yes.
but
fall.
Favorite sport? If you were to have to play professionally, what would be your favorite top sport that you'd pick?
Rugby.
Rugby. Okay. 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 I got. Let's go one more here.
Has to be an epic question.
An epic question. Okay. A nice walk along the river here, or a good patio spot in the summer.
A nice long walk at the river. Okay. Well, I'm hoping the audience probably have understood Riley a little bit more through our conversations here. We'll delve a little bit more, starting from you being a computer engineering graduate. We'll start from there. I assume, usually when people pick a major, there's a lot of driving forces or driving factors that make them pick the major they choose. Mm-hmm. Was there a reason why you picked computer engineering and not any other kind of engineering? Yeah,
so I actually originally was like dead set, I'm going to do computer science. That was I always knew it was going to be computers ever since I was little. I always got really deep into technology, obviously in that weird era of the end of the 90s being born, so you still get like the experiences of growing up without technology, but you know how to use technology and can see the benefit in it. So I always knew I was going to do something in technology or with computers or something. That was always kind of my thing. And I think when I was like grade 8 or 9, I was like, I'm going to build like apps for iPhones or little games and stuff. And I'd try to like think of different games that you could make or like things that people would like to play. But then I was like, okay, well, mom and dad want me to go to school. What's going to be where am I going to go or what am I going to do to try to like achieve what I was thinking or dreaming at the time? So it ended up being that I was like, well, computer science is probably the route. That's coding, that's computers. But at the time I didn't really know anything. So I was kind of dead set on that for probably a year and a half. And then I did a program called SHAD, or Shad Valley, which is a month-long enrichment program. About 600, the years I was in it, the year I was in it, 600 kids got accepted across Canada.
Oh, across Canada.
And they place you at a host university. So there was, at the time, there was 12 or 13 host universities across Canada, and you live at them you live there for a month. So you live there for a month. You do a design project. Every year has a theme, and then in those years, they don't do it anymore, but in those years, the theme was given to all the universities, and now you had a project team. It's very similar to like a capstone project in university. And you do this project over the course of the month, and you present it, and the top team at each university goes and competes for what it was. So ours was, how do we get people to go outside? Like, what can we do to get people outside? And so this was 2015. This was between my grade 11 and 12 year, and that whole design project, working on that for a month, I actually got placed here at the U of S because I lived in Manitoba, and I got placed here. And then the people running the program were, engineering professors, and really tailored it to like a capstone project. And I really saw how much I liked the project side of things, and, working in a team and things like that. And I think not in every industry, but there is much more of a, singularity to just, working on your own project, single stuff with it. When it comes to computer science, there's a lot there's lots of teamwork, but there's also a lot less teamwork in certain aspects. And so I was like, I think the computer engineering route is actually going to be more what I want to do. And so I spoke to some of the, the program assistants at the time, and said, what would it be like to do this? And ultimately ended up coming right back here a year later, and chose computer engineering instead.
I kind of knew like a few selective subjects I was interested in, but I never really took like an enrichment program to figure out what my interests were truly. So I think that is a really good thing that you've done, because then it gives you that exposure early on before you even get to university. So I think that's really nice. So I'm curious to ask, so I feel like university usually has a lot of experiences, right? And it builds you to become who you are. So for example, myself, through university, I've realized some of my passions: podcasting, talking to people, being social, and here I am today. Looking back at your experiences, when you look at university, what kind of university experiences do you think have shaped you to become the engineer that you are today?
I think probably some of the late nights, and just learning how to really, you got to work for, work for it, and work for everything that you wanted to achieve in school. High school always came easy to me. That was never, that was always, oh yeah, high school, it's whatever, school's easy. You get a real reality check when you get to university, right? I think probably almost, I think failing my first calculus midterm in university was like damn, okay, this is going to be some real stuff. This is serious. Like, I'm going to have to like really put the effort in. I remember calling my mom and be like, I don't know if it's going to work. Like, I was like 6 weeks in, and I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen here. But I think those like late nights, and really having to just persevere and like put your head down and work. So really kind of building up a work ethic was really kind of what shaped me for, now. And I think sometimes it's a benefit, but also, it can be a bit of a downfall sometimes, because I work a little too hard. Sometimes some extended hours, some things that really can eat away at you for over time, right? Working extended hours, and just, but I have that mindset and that drive to, be in the type of industry that I am, right? In more of the startup space of really having to do multiple things, be versatile, and really just, grind your way through it in those early days of kind of the startup tech scene. So
that absolutely makes sense. Let's talk about Rivercity Innovations a little bit. I feel like not everyone might be aware of it, so let's talk about that a little bit. If you had to describe what the company does and where it is currently, is it still a startup? Is it a growing business? Is it established here in Saskatoon and Saskatchewan? How would you describe it to someone who's completely unaware of this company?
let's back it up a little bit into, where Rivercity started, and then, we can kind of see the path. So originally, Rivercity Innovations was a GPS monitoring company. So, in 2018, people would have expected that, or would have heard that River City is preventing theft and doing asset management for, your trailers, your boats, your whatever, right? But now I would describe it as a global IoT company, primarily in the cold chain space. So our primary industry is, grocery stores, pharmacies, convenience stores, anywhere cold chain logistics, or cold chain storage in general. So cold chain IoT solutions at the root of it. So we design a hardware product and a software product, and we pair that together to provide telemetry data and monitoring for businesses. So that's to help them prevent food spoilage, reduce carbon footprint, provide operational insights for their business. So we really started in one end with the GPS, and we still do a little bit of that. So flowing it back into the cold chain, there is kind of a small subset of our business that does some GPS tracking still, as well as pairing it with the cold chain. So in a short, kind of quick, one sentence, is we're an IoT monitoring company for businesses, primarily in the cold chain industry.
Yeah. So, and I'm really curious to ask, right? Like usually when you're graduated out of university, you're figuring out life. You start off in an early career, trying to picture where's the next pathway for you to go. When this CTO position came forward to you, what made you say yes to this? And were you ever overwhelmed by the extent of the role itself?
Absolutely. So I started at River City as just a junior engineer, or I think my title was junior engineer or something along the lines of that. I was the third, if you count the founders. If you don't count the founders, I was the third employee working there at that time in 2021. So I got to work part-time a little bit before school was done, and then join on with them full-time come May of 2021. And so I worked with them for a couple of years before that position became available. And so, you're 2.5, 3 years into your career, it's kind of scary to be like, damn, that that position is that's a big title, right? You look at any large established company or anything like that, it's that's a really big role for someone to take on, and it's usually somebody with 10, 20, 30 years of experience in a given industry. So yeah, it was I felt like I was underwater for a while. I think I like to challenge myself, and I thought, I'd be doing almost myself a disservice if I didn't, take that on. And I cared a lot about the company at the time, and there was some tough decisions that have to be made that ultimately, brought that position, open in that time. So it was like, I care about this company. I want to, try to do right by it, and I'm going to challenge myself to do it. And obviously in a startup, the CTO position is a little bit different, right? We're more of in a scale up phase now, but at the time it was like, yeah, we're jumping in head first, and we don't quite know how to swim yet.
Right. No, but that's nice, right? Because you're carving that pathway for people. You're making people kind of feel inspired by what you're doing. So I think it's a good pathway for you to kind of take, not only for yourself, but all the other people that just might look up to you.
Yeah.
Curious as to, so you're working in a startup company. Do you think that your experiences as an engineer would have been very different if you were working in a non-startup company? And how do you think the experience as a startup company that you've garnered so far has made you the engineer that you are?
Yeah, I think it would be quite a bit different. I think there would be more. I don't want to say necessarily a number, but if you're working in a bigger company, you're less. You have less exposure to all areas of the company. So you're you might have your small team that you work within, and then that team is obviously part of a bigger department, and that department's there's quite the corporate structure in those companies. So I think it really this comes back to the engineering itself in terms of in terms of like, what did I learn and what experiences brought the most benefit to me during school was being able to be versatile and do lots of things. So you get into the startup space, and starting as an engineer there, I'm still wearing a lot of hats. Like one day I'm putting labels on packages and shipping boxes out, and I was prepared for that. That was in my interview. Was some days you're going to be helping doing stuff that's completely like not technical work, right? And so you have to be prepared going into that. So I think it would have been, I probably would have, like I would admit that I probably have less like deep technical experience in the terms of like I sit there and do like just technical work all day long, right? But I have gained experience in a lot of like the business aspects or the sales aspects or operations and things like that because I've been part of that like team, right? So it probably has taken me from a purely technical role and giving me kind of more of that exposure of a team leader, on that side of the business.
Yeah. So, and I feel like you've touched on this already. I know you've said you've wear multiple hats, but if you were to kind of maybe in a very high level kind of describe what does your day-to-day kind of look like as a CTO, how would you describe that to someone?
Yeah, so
I would imagine it's different every day though.
It's very wildly different. So if we go with let's go with today. What did today look like for me? So roll into the office, do kind of my standard stuff, check your emails, see how the team's doing, see what they need, fill up your coffee. That's like the most important thing in the first first day. I plug my computer in and then straight to the kitchen for coffee. There's no,
I'm like you.
There's no in between there. If somebody's going to come talk to me in the morning,
talk to me later.
Talk to me after I grab the cup or follow me to the kitchen. That's kind of the thing. And then from there, like today was, a couple of meetings, had a meeting with my other executives that are at the company. So our CEO and our COO, had a meeting with them, and then today we did a sprint planning meeting with my developers.
That sounds so familiar.
Yeah, exactly right. So we did sprint planning today. So I kind of lead that. I guess you could say that's another thing, right? Like the CTO in a big company is probably not going to be also kind of the scrum master in terms of like helping put together a sprint and manage a sprint plan for the devs. But I'm essentially the direct report, and so the next layer under me is the direct developers. So today we did a sprint plan, and then the rest of the day, had kind of some more impromptu meetings with the executives. Had a quick lunch. A lot of the days I have a working lunch. I don't quite stop working during the day. And then had a couple of more today we actually, a couple of things we ordered at Costco for the office. We had to replenish on snacks, and I always help out doing that. So, right, like there's just a complete like off duty job in a way. And then kind of getting into some of the, the technical work is kind of sprinkled throughout there. Lots of like communication with clients as well. So today I had a couple of sales calls. So we try to split up some of the duties because right now we don't actually have a sales staff in the company right now. We work with distributors and like channel partners and things like that. But we still have inbound quote requests and things that need to go out. So did a few of those calls before lunch. And then, really get into some more technical work after lunch, or trying to, obviously execute on some of the tasks that were in the sprint plan in the morning, that kind of thing, right? So that was kind of today. But I could have a day ranging from like purely meetings and some emails to, I'll have a completely open day, and I can actually just sit down and I'll be like doing development or working on an actual development task with my team. So that's kind of that's the wide range. So I kind of touch a little bit on helping operations with things, taking an input from operations and providing it to the development team to say, hey, this is what ops needs for benefit to them, but it needs to be done by developing something in the application, that kind of stuff. Or I'll be calling clients and doing some sales.
It's like you're wearing demos. Multiple hats at this point.
Yeah, I probably need to get a hat rack in my office at this point. There's not like different hats. I'm starting to run out of room on the desk for it. But that's, I think, part of the startup stuff that I like. There's not a lot of jobs I can see myself doing these days because I've had this kind of experience. Like, I don't think I could go sit at a desk and just hammer out work by myself all day. Like, I think that's just not going to happen anymore. I've done it. And my internship was at Ministry of Highways, and I was very, worked with a great team, but there's a lot of just individual work and sit down in your cubicle. And I just, I need that collaboration and that, kind of change. And maybe that's, who knows, maybe that's some undiagnosed ADHD or something. That's
who's to say? We never know. So. What do you think are some of the misconceptions that people would have about a startup, though? Like, maybe when you entered a startup, you had a few misconceptions, but it actually, it's like not true at all. Like, what do you think are some of them?
I think some people think, or there can be the misconception that, getting into a startup is like a, you're not going to get paid anything, or you have to, it's almost pro bono in a way. To it, I understand the comment, because to an extent, you're working, you're working in a company that essentially has a burn rate, right? Where you have a big corporation, they're profitable, they're making money, right? And so, wages are set, raises happen every year, every couple of years, bonuses, all these different things. So in a way, there are aspects to the, not getting paid or getting, a lower wage. And sometimes you do, but you have that, it's what you trade off for that upside potential, right? For example, working in a startup, you become an early employee and something takes off or things go on, right? You're betting on it a little bit. But I would say there's kind of a misconception that you're not quite getting paid all the time or taking a very low wage. A lot of startups, there's a lot of resources and funding out there for startups. The investor scene is a whole nother ball game that plays into all of that. So there's resources for startups to be able to pay very fairly for employees and provide benefit plans and other things like that, right? So
I'm curious, because the company that you work for supports a lot of the IoT specific technologies. Now that you're here, I'm curious to ask, like, how important do you think IoT technologies are for like cities like Saskatchewan? Like, how important do you see that in a scale of, like, let's say 1 to 10, and what difference can that really make to a more successful city?
I'd be leaning towards the 10. I would say, probably between that 8 and 10, but leaning towards the 10. IoT, a lot of people, for people that don't know, it's Internet of Things. So that's what it stands for. And people go, well, what's the Internet of Things? Or, it sounds scary, or they don't know what it is. The Internet of Things is essentially just devices that connect to the internet and can transmit data or collect telemetry in a way, right? So lots of people have IoT devices at home already. Google Homes, Amazon Echoes, etc. But the IoT is really just, for a city like Saskatoon, for example, being able to integrate IoT with their existing infrastructure, or be able to build new infrastructure with IoT connected devices or connected infrastructure. They're essentially just being able to collect data. And it's 2026. We know that data is very important. Everybody wants more of it. Some companies try to take it without you knowing, right? there's the argument that data is king. And so the more data you have, the more decisions you can make, right? And so as an engineer, I understand that it's data-driven decisions ultimately, usually tend to work out the best. So, the city could be making decisions about all sorts of things, right? And you do see some devices around there, right? I think, I guess International Road Dynamics, right? They've got devices around the city, right? When you see the little strips and things going that you drive over or things like that. But there's all sorts of, interesting IoT devices that some cities have been integrating. So it could be smart street lamps or things like that, right? Smart street lamps could be better for energy consumption. But I have also heard of aspects of smart street lamps where they're connected with 911 dispatchers and ambulances.
I didn't know
And
that.
so you have essentially an internal system that knows where an accident or where a problem has happened. And then for the ambulance to be able to navigate the city, the streetlights actually change color to help guide ambulances.
That is so cool.
So there's those kinds of things. Obviously, it's quite the undertaking to do these types of projects, but it's very important for the city or for businesses to be able to integrate this kind of stuff, because collecting telemetry is going to give you data into your business, and you're going to be able to take that data and make decisions. For us, we provide businesses with data on cooler performance, or in the simplest case, are things too hot or too cold, right? It's not just the specific cooler, the brand or the type, but is my food safe, right? Like, that's data you have, and that's that's a base decision. Is my food safe, or is my food still frozen? So when you can add layers to that, adding, we have coolers that this brand isn't so good, or this style isn't very good, or whatever it may be, or this brand breaks down the most often, right? Now you can make decisions in your business moving forward to say, well, we're not going to waste money on maybe this brand, because we know historically with the data that we have from our telemetry monitoring, we're going to save $10,000 because we aren't going to do that or go with that brand or whatever else. So
true, yeah. And like, you working in this industry now for, I want to say 5-6 years?
A little over 5. Yeah, we'd be about 5.5 now. Yeah,
5.5 years. I know that you also work for correct me if I'm wrong, I know it's SIPE. I don't know what the full form is. Saskatchewan?
Yes, Saskatchewan Young Professionals and Entrepreneurs.
Yes. What made you step into that area of leadership team?
Yeah, so SIPE, SIPE's a volunteer based organization here in Saskatchewan. So we have 2 chapters. We have the Saskatoon chapter and the Regina chapter. The organization has been around for quite a long time. The history stems back to being, a group of people that was the junior chamber of commerce, right? Just like we have, the Chamber of Commerce in Saskatoon. And so, we do lots of cool events, networking events. We have an awards show coming up, an awards event coming up in October, which is the Silver Spade, so the top young professional and young entrepreneur of the year in Saskatchewan. So I'd been to that event specifically with a friend of mine, and knew it's funny because lots of the people in the tech space are also the people that end up in this like entrepreneurial, professional networking, area of, Saskatoon. And so SIPE kind of fit right in there. And so I'd been to events, and I guess what they were doing was they were setting up kind of more of a technology focused committee on the board. And I got asked if I wanted to. I got asked multiple times before I finally said yes, but
you were wanted.
Or yes to apply. Yeah, I was wanted, but I did still go through the application process. So yeah, it was cool. It was kind of why not? Let's do something different. Let's do something different again. That adds to the level of things that I have to commit in my life, commit to in my life, and do, right? Because I also do a lot of stuff outside of work, and volunteering and other things. It's not a go home and sit and watch TV like as much as I would love to. It's not always the case. I have a lot of personal things that I do outside of work and
busy person. Ambitious.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I thought it was a cool opportunity, and so I just started on the technology committee as a board member, and now I'm the technology chair of that committee. There's the technology committee is a lot smaller, but it, essentially what we're trying to do is refine and enhance processes, make things more efficient within the board, and then help, obviously, in events and things like that. So, there, I think it was it was at the time, it was our president that, president that year had said, "Hey, like, you should join." And I was like, "Oh, okay, maybe."
Yeah. Same like the podcast, right? Like I said, come to the podcast. You're like, yeah, maybe. And then
now
you're here.
Yeah, exactly.
You
exactly.
just need a nudge. You just need nudges to get to the place.
Yeah. Twist my rubber arm, right?
Well, what advice would you give to young computer engineers who are coming into the workforce, let's say in the next 2-3 years?
Don't be afraid to try things. I think, it might be a little cliche, but, being outside your comfort zone, but like, that's like really, really true. My role at Rivercity, if I wanted to just be like, it's not really in my comfort zone, I'm going to just stay away from it, I wouldn't have the role that I have. So you have to, I think, be willing to say yes, a lot more than you think. And just, don't be scared to make a very uncomfortable decision. You could, go into computer engineering and come out of it and just kind of work at a desk and code away and be somebody that's just kind of at a company, and that's what you do. And I mean, there's no shame in that. There's a role for everybody, but for people that want to be, if you want to be a little bit more ambitious or get, gain lots of experience, I think you got to say yes to lots of things, go meet people, get out there and show people who you are. Don't be scared of some of those decisions that come up, and if they come up early in your career, even better. There's no shame in like learning how to do something, or figuring something out for the first time, especially early on in your career. I think, engineering is a lifelong, is lifelong learning. You're always going to be figuring something out. And I think anybody who goes through engineering is going to know that throughout your degree, there was probably never a moment where you just knew everything and you could do it. You always had to figure it out somehow. Not to rat on anybody, but one of the, I think that it was the dean, the academic dean for the College of Engineering, told me at an event one time, said, we don't necessarily put you through school and through this program to become, an engineer necessarily. It's more to make you a learner and make you learn how to figure out how to do things. It's not, he said, we're not going to teach you all of the material and teach you what you need to know. We're teaching you so that you learn how to figure out what you need to know, right?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So it was more of it was funny. He's like, he kind of came up to me at this event. We were chatting, and then he's like, yeah, don't tell anybody this, but we don't actually like teach you how to be engineering. So, but
it's a good learning though. I feel like a lot of people don't realize this, right? Like often you'd think you do a major and that's going to lead you to a job, but people don't realize that your learning is actually making you a lifelong learner instead. So
exactly. You're not just going to it's not cut and paste. You don't go through the checklist of school and then be like, well, the last thing on the checklist is work until I'm 65. Like that's, there's a lot of things in between that, graduating and then going and working somewhere, being in the workforce, no matter what you do, whether it's start a company, work in a company, help invest in other companies, things like that. You're always going to be learning something all the time. Our investors that are also our board of directors at Rivercity, they learn something, especially from us, like all the time, right? Like, these are all guys that have worked in industries, built companies, sold companies, and they still learn, things about us, or things of learning how to navigate 2026.
If you look at your kind of 5.5-ish kind of career that you've had so far, how would you define growth today versus maybe 5.5 years ago? How different the word growth mean to you? I need to drink my matcha.
Growth, I guess there's probably two ways of thinking about that. So I guess growth as a company and being within a company, and then growth of yourself. I think 5 or 6 years ago, me looking at it from my perspective would have been, how am I going to excel and do my job correctly, is probably what I would have seen it, and work through growth probably as more of a fiscal idea of, it's how much am I getting paid, or what level do I have as a title within a job, or that probably 5 or 6 years ago naively would have been my idea of that's what growth is, right? Okay, I got the degree, and now I got the job, and now you need the the next best salary or the next best title. But I think now it's definitely more defined as the experiences and the things that I get along the way throughout my career, rather than putting like a monetary value on it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I want to like backtrack a little bit, and I don't know how much you can say, but you tell me how much you can. When we're looking at Rivercity Innovations, is there a particular project that excites you as a CTO? But say what you can.
Yeah. We don't have we don't have a whole ton of like secrets, I guess. I think the project that excites me the most, I think especially right now, is or has over the course of time, has been our software. We have the hardware product. The hardware is fun. It's cool. Hardware is very interesting. I think there's a lot of different aspects of hardware that people could get into, and things that are really, really fascinating about it, especially when we're talking about like some of the edge AI and things like that, right? Like edge computing and things like that. So you're really just doing it at the device level. But what really excites me, I think, is the growth and development of our software platform. It's kind of been our baby in a way. We've used third-party software, just dashboards and things like that, but this one's our own, and it's really cool to see the different things that we get to. It's cool to see the things that my developers put in as features, or things that we get to brainstorm about, and then now bringing in the AI side of that software. I think that's really exciting because we hear about the AI all the time. It's like, oh, AI this, AI that. And now we're actually like making our own, which is kind of cool, with our own data sets, and our, it's going to be learning from our data. And we have some really cool stuff that's on the way. I think I spoke, I don't know if you were at it, but I spoke at the AI Sask. I can't remember if we talked about, at that expo there. So some of us startup companies did a quick 5-minute little thing up on stage. So, we're working on some really cool analytics and some things that are going to come out. And it seems simple. It's temperature data and humidity data and things, right? But there's, as we've talked about, there's a lot of business decisions and operational decisions that can be made from it. And kind of strapping on that AI component is really cool. So being able to work with the team on that aspect, but also just work on the basic stuff that's like, this is our software. Like, it's cool. It's like, this is Rivercity's. Like everything that we sell to our client is ours. We've got the hardware, and we've got the network, and we've got the software, and so
I think it's also exciting when there are things that are made in-house, right? Like that's just its own glory, because like you see it from scratch, and like you're building it from zero to actually something. So that seems very exciting to me. I feel like a lot of people talk a lot about their successes, but as we're kind of getting closer here towards the end, I'm curious to ask, what kind of failures, whether that be personal, professional, whatever that may be, what kind of failures do you think has made you change yourself as an engineer or as a person?
Well, this is like, this isn't super deep, but one of the first few weeks on the job, I deleted every customer device out of our network server. That was really fun. So that really made me rethink delete buttons. So that's definitely, that was an early on low point that we all laugh at now. And it's reasons why we have access restricted or privilege restricted accounts on certain things at the
Did you
company.
revive the data at least?
Yeah,
Okay,
we had recently, in a week earlier, set up backups for the first time on the AWS server that we were using, and we had never tested them before, so we got to test them for that. At the time, we had about 100 devices or 200 devices. It wasn't like a big deal. If that were to happen today, we have about 10,000 devices that would need to get recovered. So it wouldn't have been as cool there, then. So I would say in terms of failures and low points, that kind of stuff. I think I think coming back to the saying yes more. I've been kind of hinting at it, but there is a bit of a caveat there with how much you should say yes. And I think I wouldn't say it's a failure, but a bit of a lower point is saying yes too often and then overcommitting yourself and burning yourself out. I think there was a time a couple of years ago where I was drained. It was I was stressed out and not sleeping well and just like burnt out. Come to work, try to work, your just brain is just foggy. You have no motivation to do anything. That was probably one of the biggest things for me in my career so far. That has been we need to rethink how we do this, because if I'm going to not, if I'm not going to, pay attention to my body and my health and those types of things and the signs that my body is giving me that I'm worn out and I need a break, it really catches up with you quick. And so there was quite a few months at one point where I was just, I was drained. And that was early on taking on this position, right? And so you talked about, I was a little underwater and having to learn a lot of things. But at the same time, I didn't say no. I wanted the challenge, but I also probably didn't ask for help as much as I needed it. And so now I've kind of, been in the role long enough, and you figure things out. And I have mentors and people that I, meet with regularly to discuss, what I'm doing and how I should do it better. And I didn't ask for a lot of those resources. And so that would probably be my biggest one, is just not asking for help and just trying to power through it, because that's what the student engineer in me told me to do.
That's so fair. Like, I won't get into too much details, but I think I myself, like 2 years ago, have gone through the same thing. Like, I said yes to almost everything, and there was a point where I had too much almost on my plate. And I think, yes, like reaching out to people is very helpful, but I think more than that is like being self-aware that you're actually burnt out. Like, I feel like I've gone through months not even realizing I was burnt out. I just thought I was being lazy almost, because it's like that self-ambitious kind of brain. Like, you think you're just lazy, but you're not lazy.
Yeah, exactly. So, you're kind of you're sitting on the couch one day, like, oh, I just don't really feel like doing that today. It's like, no, like if that happens often enough and you normally are not like that, you're not just necessarily being lazy. You're probably burnt out. You're saying, and there's there's that world where it's like, oh, look, opportunity. But that will come back around to bite you when there are opportunities, but everybody has a capacity. Some people's capacities are more than others, but you have to kind of balance your life and take a break. And that's what holidays are for, and that's what time with your friends are for.
And it's also that you're not really going to get a lot out of those opportunities if you're not balancing it, right? Like, if you just said yes to everything, like, sure, you're doing those things, but how much depth are you getting? Well, Riley, I want to say thank you so much for saying.
Thank you.
I have a whole essay in my brain, so thank you so much, actually, for saying yes to the podcast.
Of course.
Where did we first meet? I don't even know. We met at
I think it was at Up.
We met at Up.
Uniting the Prairies.
Yes, that's where we first met, or second time. I don't remember. It's either one or the other. And I'm so grateful that you said yes. I know that I'm a complete stranger to you, but you sharing so much at the podcast means so much to me.
Of course.
And because you are here, we're going to pretend like you didn't see this earlier. This is our sponsor,
Thank you so much.
They are Rayla Cafe. If you wanted to say any last words, what would you tell the audience?
Thank you for having me on the podcast.
You're welcome.
Say yes to lots of opportunities, but make sure you know where your limit is.
Yes.
And
balance it out.
Yes. Opportunities are going to bring things, and it might not happen right away. But we met at Uniting the Prairies, which was in April.
Yeah.
And we're doing this now
in August.
August, so many months later. So the opportunities, sometimes they take time.
Yeah, true. And they come at the right time, and they happen at the right time.
Exactly. So.
Well, with that being said, to the audience, I'm going to say once again, thank you so much, Riley, for being here at an evening. I know it's a busy day for you, but you being here means so much to me. And to the audience, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can leave it in the comment section below, and Riley and I will help to co-reply because we're awesome duos. And with that being said, we're just going to say bye.